It's good afternoon, Michelle J Raymond. Thank you for joining us at Yellow Shelf.
I am super excited to be here and very happy that our paths have crossed once again. And I didn't even
No,
realize at the time when I
I
said yes.
know. I know. We
Small
don't
world.
we can keep that secret if you want. I think the truth is it just shows, doesn't it? Sometimes you share how you know someone or connections and community are so powerful. So I'm really grateful that you finally have come on. You said yes. I'm going to talk to you today about one of your many podcasts, social media for B2B growth. Congratulations. What do we need to know about your podcast, Michelle?
You need to know that I created that podcast because I was sick of the amount of misinformation and rubbish that's often associated with social media, in particular LinkedIn, that was really deflating people and deterring them from using LinkedIn. And I'm absolutely in love with LinkedIn. Your listeners need to know that. Like, I love it. It has given me so many amazing opportunities. And I didn't want other people to miss out on that, especially those that may not be the loudest in the room or the big extroverts that take up lots of space, especially those in the background. I wanted them to have a place. And I especially love using LinkedIn to grow businesses. And I've been doing it for 10 years. And this podcast that I do, Social Media for B2B Growth, is literally short, snappy lessons so that people can figure out how to use it and get closer to their goals because nothing makes me happier than watching other people grow their business.
Yeah. And look, Michelle, I don't want to skim over this. You are a LinkedIn expert. You are an in-demand guest across the world. It's not too hard to search you being on loads of other podcasts, interviews, some incredibly significant names. So that's how much you know about this space. And anyone who's listened to my Yellow Shelf podcast knows that I pretty much built Yellow Shelf on the back of a LinkedIn following. So I'm excited to have you here to understand. Tell me what inspired you to start it as a podcast. I know you've been an author as well. Tell us about that journey to create a podcast, I guess, to get your message out there.
Well, I'm really lucky that one of the friends that I met on LinkedIn, shout out to Michelle Griffin, who I ended up being a co-author on the LinkedIn branding book with, but she's a personal branding strategist. And back when we first became friends on LinkedIn, because I was talking about company pages and the business side of LinkedIn, and she was all about the personal. And so we really, my background as well is all sales, and hers was more marketing. And so when I was starting out my business, which I quit in March 2020, you remember that time, that little COVID thing that took over the world? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I decided to quit my job and set up a business. So, and basically what happened was we became friends. I was learning from her, she was learning from me as we figured out how to build a business. Now, one of the things that I realized is that marketing and branding I thought was just a load of rubbish. I was a salesperson. I was the hero that I did all the work and I got all the sales and you should worship me. Well, when I had my own business, I came tumbling down and realized that it's not quite that simple. So shout out to all the marketers who might be listening on behalf of all the salespeople who never give you credit for what you do. That's how it all started. But she said to me one day, Michelle, you should have a podcast. And I was like, why do I need a podcast? She said, it's for your personal brand. And I was like, okay. Like, and so my brain goes into how do you technically go and set up a podcast? So I researched microphones and equipment and where I'd record it and how I'd distribute it and all that side. And I figured it out.
Yes.
Except the problem was I didn't figure out that you're actually doing it for the people listening, not for yourself. And so it took me a good 12 to 18 months before one day it clicked. Actually, this isn't about you, Michelle J. Raymond. Just like I have always practiced and preached on LinkedIn that it's not all about me, but for some reason, podcasting wasn't. So I then have since thankfully figured out that I have this amazing opportunity to speak with my audience every week and really share the lessons I've learned on LinkedIn. So I didn't get started because I was passionate. I secretly confess that I do two podcasts. I'm a guest on so many and I don't even listen to them. And so shout out to all the listeners that do.
Look, and podcasting is a journey, isn't it? I mean, you've just shared your journey, and I think, I relate to researching microphones and just kind of hacking as we go and learning but yeah, it's super interesting to hear your journey because I think that's very relatable for many listeners, as well as other podcast hosts. Michelle, tell us about, can you tell us about you? without naming organizations, you talked about a sales journey. Do you want to just kind of mention a little bit about that part of your life, that career?
Yeah, look, my sales journey started back when I lived in Newcastle, your hometown. So I had my job over at One Steel, as did most people that lived in Newcastle. At some stage, we all worked there. You know, for
Yeah.
those that are tuning in from overseas, it's a steel town, and we all worked at the steel plant, give or take. You know, at some stage or some way we were connected to
Yeah.
it. But I realized that I loved serving customers. I'd had a customer service background, but I wanted to be face to face. That's what I was missing. And so I was lucky enough to get a role where I became an account manager and I would be out on the road face to face having conversations. Now, I absolutely think that sales is the best job in the world. And I say that because my context for selling is really powerful. It's problem solving and helping people, two things that I'm really good at. And the more I do of it, the more I sell. And so I've had an extremely successful sales career in my time. You know, I complete with winning $1 million sale on LinkedIn from a LinkedIn post. So, you know, lots of success the whole way through, but ultimately it always comes back to who can I help? What problem do they have that I can solve? And so that's how I show up. And my podcast literally is that as well. You know, it follows the same framework. Who can I help? What problem do they have? And how can I help them get closer to their goals? And so when I moved from, oh, let's figure out how to do a podcast technically to how can I help more people? What do you know? It helped my business grow as well. Mind blowing, Joanna, mind blowing.
Oh, that's a really good share. That's another great. Gosh, you have so much great shares. And the truth is, you have delivered nearly 160 episodes in your weekly podcast. Um, Tell the audience, how do we connect with you? I tend to watch a lot of your episodes on YouTube, but you also have a fantastic resources on your website. You point us in the direction, I'll put it in the show notes of how people can connect with you.
Look, obviously they're going to find me over on LinkedIn, and I'm Michelle J Raymond, and that initial is in there so that you can find me in amongst the 50 million Michelle Raymonds that are on the platform. Something that I discovered very early on. How are you going to find me? So that's where you'll find me. That's where I hang out. And you're right, my podcast is fully accessible. So I have fully edited YouTube videos that have subtitles. I also have the full edited transcripts on the podcast website. And of course, there's the audio across all of the audio platforms. And that was really important to me. I go above and beyond to make sure that no matter how you like to learn, there's always something there. So I'm the person that reads podcast transcripts. So that's why I put so much effort into it, which is crazy. I've had my podcast coach, he's like, Michelle, why do you read transcripts? And I was like, I can't listen to podcasts. It's just, I didn't like classrooms at school, and I just find it hard to learn that way. I love to read. And so we always have a joke about how I read podcasts. But shout out to anyone else out there who reads podcast transcripts. I appreciate all of you.
I'm sure there's many. I'm sure there's many. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've got some books. I'd love to get you back at another time to talk about those and share them with our audience, because I think LinkedIn is such a great space. Like, you, me, I feel more comfortable on LinkedIn than I do on Instagram or Facebook. I think it's, for those who enjoy LinkedIn, you are probably my go-to expert. So thank you very much for joining us here at Yellow Shelf.
It is my absolute pleasure. And I look forward to hearing from people that might have listened to this. If you've been inspired, do reach out. I promise I don't bite. The last thing they want is people to kind of go, oh, she's this big expert. And oh, no, can I really speak to her? Yes. The answer is yes. You absolutely can speak to me. So please let me know that you listen to this podcast so I can make sure I pass on the feedback.
Yeah. And look, I can vouch for that, Michelle, can't I? Because you and I exchanged a couple of comments, and then bang, we've got this connection of coming from the same hometown and knowing people. So it's amazing what LinkedIn can bring. But thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
Cheers.